Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for attending our session. Quick introductions. I am Olga Brigava. I run our AI and machine translation efforts here at Smartling. And today I'll be interviewing my esteemed colleague, Marina Sanchez Torron, and we will be talking about the future of translation quality, evaluating translation quality, and the impact it has on our day-to-day in the world of AI. So let's maybe set the stage a little bit briefly. What do we know about evaluating translation quality? The quality, there are two avenues there, right? There's the quality of actual translation, and then there are ways we can actually measure it. And those of us who've been in the industry for a while remember the trajectory. We've started from different metrics for a long time. Lisa was the dominating standard. Then came Tao's DQF and MQM. Then came harmonized DQF MQM. And then we saw different iterations thereof, and even more so now when AI is definitely dominating the stage. So on that note, Marina, let's get started and let's talk about the state of translation quality and where is AI making most impact. So would it be design aspects and how humans interact with AI? Is it how ability to evaluate quality dynamically, how is it impacting the workflows? And in general, what kind of expectations do you think we should set now when we have access to AI-driven quality estimation?
If I try to summarize or at least mention the most important points, I think the translation quality has moved from being something you would do at the very end of a process to something that is done at every single step of a long process to improve quality from start to finish. So in the past, I was a translator for a long time, and in the past, evaluation of translations was done at the very end, long after the translation was done, long after the translator and reviewers worked on it. So it was a bit hard to act timely on those things. So the contrast is now we have all these systems, sometimes working on their own, sometimes working alongside humans, and kind of like making smart decisions. So when the content reaches a human, in some cases, it doesn't even reach a human. So when the content reaches a human, what the human sees is already an optimized version that has passed multiple checkpoints. Another important aspect is quality estimation. Quality estimation is something that is fairly recent compared to translation memories, for example. And quality estimation, what it does, it estimates quality. It differs from evaluation in that a quality estimation system doesn't require a reference translation. So you just have a source text, you have a machine translation usually, and the quality estimation, depending on the system it uses, it assigns a quality score to this translation. So you can use that information to make routing decisions, for example. You can say, okay, if my quality estimation system assigns a high score to this machine translation, it doesn't need to be edited by a human. I'm just going to deliver it directly to the client. On contrary, if you have a very low scoring segment, you make sure that this is reviewed by a human. So quality estimation, translation memories, terminology as well. For a long time, if you wanted to make sure that the translation included the terminology that is expected by the glossary, it's very hard. It was very hard to maintain grammatical accuracy, for example, particularly in languages that have a very high level of inflection. I'm thinking of Finnish, for example, where one concept can be expressed in 20 or 25 different suffixes. So LLMs allow you to integrate this terminology in a way that it flows, yeah, which didn't happen before.
I think it's absolutely priceless that you yourself come from translator background. You've experienced all those things firsthand, right? You've inserted TM matches and you worked with terminology, and now you get that luxury of having terminology inserted in morphologically aware way. So
Yeah.
now to the next part of our journey, a lot of talk about automated quality evaluation. right? And we went from using translation error rate or translation edit rate, right, as a metric of how the quality, like to estimate and drive the quality decisions. But obviously, we've made a lot of progress. Now we say that we're at the age of automated quality evaluation with MQM. Are we not quite there yet? Are we getting there? So it would be great if you shared your findings and your research work on the topic. So first, I think we want to distinguish, just like in any industry, an industry that would have an assembly line, let's think automotive. Probably there are two things, right? There is quality estimation, as Marina mentioned earlier, now it's much further upstream. You actually can use your quality estimators to make decisions about where the workflow goes next. And probably there's final quality assurance that allows you to assess the final product, be it automatically translated product or potentially human translated product. So what do we think? I mean, the Smartling vision on quality estimation, there is something that we currently refer to as edit effort estimation, probably we'll relabel it to quality estimation. That actually allows you, using maybe a little bit reduced and modified set of quality categorization labels, little more modified taxonomy, actually allows you to drive decisions around where content goes in the workflow. What we've also learned is if you use customer data to fine tune this module, you actually get up to 30% higher accuracy in predictions on which string is good, which string is bad, and which string is in between and requires validation. So what can we do? The other thing, we all know that usually you calculate scores, MQM scores on the document level. So from there, you can proceed to document level MQM and document level MQM that actually highlights critical errors. Where do you go from here? Again, talking about translator experience and translator quality of life. From there, we can go to string level severity labeling. And I think we all, or most of us, are familiar with the severity levels, right? And most importantly, you have critical that you absolutely do not want in your content. Then you have major, then you have minor, then you have neutral, and then you have preferential. And usually preferentials are the ones that you handle with a question mark because that's really personal preference. And then where do you go from there? String level error category labeling. So not only do you want to know the severity, but you also want to know what type of errors there are. And again, different content types would have different sensitivity to different errors. And then where do you go from here? You go to self-healing loop or string healing. You've highlighted the errors. You already know everything about them, so why not heal them? So this is the landscape in a nutshell.
One of the motivations for working on AutoMQM that we have at Smartling is, well, there's many, but one of them is like make sure that we can help some human processes to be more aligned with the outcome we want. And with this, I say, for example, in this slide, I'm showing one example of one experiment we ran in German, where you can see on the x-axis, so on the horizontal axis, you have several groups of bars. The leftmost is how many annotators agree on severity. So for example, you have 6 annotators. When you look at 2 of them, it's likely that 70% of the, in this case, minor issues they agree on. Major issues may be a bit lower, 65, but as you keep adding more annotators, you can see the agreement going down. Finally, if you want to have 6 annotators agreeing on everything, the agreement drops to less than 5%. Yeah? This graph and other people have looked at this and got similar results. I think it highlights how complex quality assessment is and how it involves some natural ambiguity, which MQM tries to make up for, and it does up to a certain extent. Yeah, AutoMQM can help annotators be more systematic, provided it's kind of like it works in parallel with other, perhaps not so AI-ish things. You know, you take care of the UX of how you present the information, how instructions are shown to the editors, how internal processes and the well-being of the annotator, let's say, You look at all those things, and together you can get better agreement figures. So this was one experiment that we ran in a sort of like a separated kind of like sandbox, yeah. So with this, I want to say like getting figures that look better is a long-term effort, and there's many aspects of it. So AutoMQM is one of those that can help. Huh? So I don't know how familiar with like the listeners are with AutoMQM or automatic metrics, but I think for me, AutoMQM is an open problem in that there's nowadays it's kind of like fairly straightforward to have, for example, a prompt-based AutoMQM system. You create a prompt, look at this translation and annotate these errors, blah blah blah. So you can get quite high accuracy for an out-of-the-box system like that, provided you are working with basic errors. So LLMs are very good at detecting, for example, grammar errors, basic mistranslations, for example, but the moment quality requirements get a bit more complex, which is very common for in the localization world, you have style guides with 20 pages. You have glossaries that some of them may be inconsistent with each other. You have conflicts with the translation memory, style guides, glossaries. The moment you put this in the wild, let's say, you can see how those initial accuracy figures that you can get for basic errors drop to 60, 70%, depending on the cases. There's also differences based on languages. English, Spanish is a fairly common language. There's a lot of data for it. You may get a better result for this than for English Korean, for example.
So yes, there are avenues to reach certain degree of accuracy with automated MQM. And Marina, as you and I discussed earlier, we absolutely, as much as sometimes we can see lower inter-annotator agreement, right? Or even annotators' agreement with themselves, depending on the different way, we can only enter the world of automated MQM with confidence, right? And trust for human scoring, right? As much as we do want to provide AI-based solutions for the humans to inform humans and make more consistent decisions. And the household Smartling joke is right that, yeah, LLMs always perform great when it comes to automated MQM because it disagrees with itself just as much as a human can disagree with themselves on certainty. So then let's proceed to what other metrics can we use and what other automated scoring metrics can we actually use to augment human assessment and the overall AI-informed evaluation framework. And we know that, for instance, as I said, TER and Levenstein at a distance and Bleu, all the metrics that we see on screen, they've been around for quite some time. So let's talk a little bit about the automated metrics as we've known them for years and what results we actually get. And then maybe we can touch on where can we go beyond that, beyond textual scoring.
Yeah, automatic metrics have been around for a while, as you said. So I would say maybe around 2000, 2002. And what these, the initial automatic metrics are based on, they rely on surface level text comparison. So for example, on this table here, you have a reference on the left. Reference stands for your gold translation. Yeah, so if you want to evaluate translation, you need a reference that tells you what's a good translation. Yeah, not for quality estimation, but for quality evaluation you do. So imagine you have this reference. After lengthy deliberations, the jury found the defendant guilty. You're only missing the source text, but imagine any source text that would translate to this. And your new empty system issues this translation, which completely changes the meaning. It says defendant not guilty in the first example. In the second example, it translates gas into oil, which, it can wreck your car, right? And you have there a sort of like a funny note, the difference between let's eat grandmother with a comma and an exclamation sign and let's eat grandmother. So in all these three examples, the actual differences between reference and hypothesis are very small when you look at them on a textual basis. In reality, the meaning is completely different. So circle there in orange, you have post-editing distance. Post-editing distance, the lower, the better, that we can guide ourselves to that. And blue, the higher, the better. So we have highish blue scores and lowish post-editing distance, which would say these are good translations when we are seeing they're not. Yeah. So this is where textual metrics fail. Now, the motivation for improving these metrics was there, but it was, I think, maybe 2018 with neural models that allowed for better metrics to go beyond this textual scoring. And the concept of word embeddings, it's central to this. So word embeddings are like numerical representations of words. So if you want to represent a word like man, instead of using 3 letters, you would use maybe 1,000 numbers, yeah, a vector with 1,000 numbers. And the idea is that words that are similar are plotted close to each other. Now, when I say a word like man can have 1,000, can be represented by 1,000 numbers, these are, say, 1,000 dimensions, but we are plotting here in 3 dimensions on the left only just for us to make it easier to understand. So the idea is that you can see, for example, male, female there, these semantic embeddings, these word embeddings can capture those concepts because concepts that are similar are clustered together in space. So the relation, what you can see there, the relation to king and man, it's kind of the same as the relation to queen and woman in that they are pointing, their vectors point in the same direction. Another thing that these word embeddings can capture is verb tense. Gerunds will be separated from participles in the same direction for different verbs, and also country capital. So you see Madrid is closer to Spain because it's the capital of Spain than Beijing is to Spain, yeah? And there's another way of representing this. Here on the right, you have walk, run, and jog all together, and blink kind of apart because blink is really not related. So this is the concept of word embeddings, like using numerical representations to represent the semantic relations between words. And of course, translation is not words, yeah? Translation is sentences, docs, yeah? So the concept of word embeddings is extended to sentence embeddings. Is the same principle, so expand the concept of word embeddings to sentence. You see, for example, here, lion is the king of the jungle. It has a sort of similar direction to the tiger hunts in this forest, but it's different to Everybody Loves New York because this is a completely different meaning, yeah? And when it comes to translation, you see on the right there, what time is the checkout, and you have the German and the Japanese translation. They are together because they represent similar concepts. And then how late is the pool open is kind of somewhere else. And this is exactly what allows us to use these embeddings to measure quality. If, for example, you see that the representation of the source text has certain characteristics and the representation of the translation has a completely opposite direction in the vector space, you can suspect, and you will probably be right, that there's something going on there. This is a good way of identifying, for example, hallucinations, and this is what we do at Smartling as well. So overall semantic scoring allows for a view of quality which is much more aligned with what we humans see as quality.
And I think it's also important to note that semantic scoring, as opposed to textual scoring, and I'd love to see if you agree or disagree with me here. You always need gold standard, right? When you go into text scoring, you always need your reference or a couple of references, right? And I guess the important thing about potentially implementing semantic scoring into your quality evaluation framework is that it can equally be non-referential, right?
Okay,
And
yeah.
that, I guess, helps tremendously when you are evaluating just automated translation alone, right? And there is absolutely nothing else. There is no point of reference that you can potentially use. And that
Yeah.
I think that helps us here at Smartling to inform our decisions around quality when all you have is machine translation. You have absolutely nothing else, right? So that's
Yeah.
probably a part of that, right? And also, we just looked at more conventional metrics, right? But there are also metrics that we're working on right now. I mean, there's Comet that again has been around for quite some time. Then right now we're looking closely at metric X, right? Another metric that Google has developed. So what we found, and again, Marina, please feel free to disagree with me, but I'm pretty sure we'll be aligned here, is the best results you get if you use a combination of text metrics, text-based metrics, and semantic metrics, right? Using semantic embedding technology.
I think it's good practice to not just use one metric, just use several as a sort of sanity check. I think textual metrics still have some use. Translation error rate, for example, is a good proxy for effort, for the effort that someone has to exert, let's say, to change a translation. With all the caveats, for example, changing the sentence that we saw before about declaring the defendant guilty or not guilty, arguably it's low effort because you just have to delete 3 characters, but you definitely have to look at it and make sure you identify the error. Yeah. So I think the using more than one metric, and that includes textual and semantic scores, is a good practice for guiding research. Yeah.
Well, and equally in production implementation. Okay, great. So let's go to the final question. Here we are talking to our enterprise customers, and we definitely want to be trusted advisors here. So let's talk a little bit about what would it take to design a proper quality estimation strategy, quality evaluation strategy. How much automation do you want to introduce? My 2 cents would be, first and foremost, and I already alluded to this, decide what really matters for your organization and for your content type, right? And your tolerance to what kind of errors can you actually tolerate? Where's the pass threshold where you say, okay, my automated metrics here, be it, for instance, automated MQM, my automated metrics actually have reached a certain score where this content can pass. Or this content is highly sensitive, so I definitely expect higher scores here. So that'd probably be one. The other one that I personally have been thinking about quite a lot is, yes, we're used to estimating and evaluating linguistic quality. But if you think about it in the business context, there is also the impact, right? And the correlation of quality with your company's KPIs and with your business KPIs, right? And it could be absolutely anything. If we talk about the website, hey, let's look the number of clicks, right? And how long people stay on the page, right? Or conversion rate. So there are multiple ways of looking at it. And I think it's very important to enter the world of quality estimation, even now when the technical opportunities are unlimited, with an open mind, right? Enter it with an open mind, but at the same time, not necessarily chase the next shiny object, right? And we see a lot of articles, a lot of academic articles about varied degree of success when it comes to, again, maybe we drive it back to automated MQM. We see a lot of very interesting enterprise implementations. I'd probably argue that we still are in very early stages of full automated quality estimation, but there's definitely quite a bit that can be helpful for translators and quite a bit that enterprise can adopt. So I would love to hear your thoughts about that and your words of wisdom and maybe a little bit of a crystal ball. Where do you think it's going?
I don't know. I think now they say like I think there's this saying that in 5 years something will happen. Yeah, we've been hearing like in 5 years machine translation will be a solved problem. In 5 years quality evaluation will be a solved problem. And when you say those things, it's always like kind of passing the ball to the future. I think teams have improved so much when it comes to the capabilities of linguistic capabilities as applied to translation or quality evaluation that AI can do. But it hasn't taken away, I think, more traditional more traditional stuff. Like, for example, you definitely need to prepare the people that are going to be working with MQM. You need to, as you said, you need to manage expectations, because we see there's always a degree of uncertainty. Hopefully, it's a low one. Yeah. You need to make sure other practices when it comes to, as I said before, the interface or the instructions or any other aspects that involve everyone, which is involving annotation, that are taken care of. And I think it's difficult. Maybe it's difficult to align the expectations of what a customer wants with what linguists perceive as quality. And it has to do with what you said before about maybe you're more interested in understanding how many clicks you get when you create a translation than whether there's a misplaced comma somewhere. Yeah, so it's super important to have these requirements aligned, and that requires customization. MQM allows you to create custom metrics. So you could well define an MQM metric that just ignores punctuation. For example, if you're working with renewable content like chat, for example, you may not want to have a full evaluation as if you are working with publishable material. So I think AutoMQM can be very helpful, can help annotators, but there's this kind of work around it that is important to not oversee. Not think that this system is kind of like a magic one that works regardless of the context. Yeah. So perhaps that's the most boring part of all this. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to. I have one more question for you. In your work and in your research, since I mean, obviously we're on the same team, so we have access to the research that you do. And in this conversation as well, you've mentioned a couple of times the importance of clean linguistic assets, right? Clean and consistent linguistic assets. So I don't know if you want to say a couple of words of how important it is, the importance of that.
Yes, they are very important. I think style guides vary widely in shape and form across clients. I think in my experience, they all have some sort of descriptions. Maybe they have some exceptions. Anyway, they're not standardized, of course, yeah, because or maybe you have 3 PDFs and then one Word document. So, and in addition, you have glossaries, yeah, and you have translation memories. And I would say it's very, very difficult to not have any sort of contradiction between those items, simply because translations are not separate from time, from their context. They happened in one moment, and they keep happening. And if you've been working, different people have been working on a translation memory. Maybe client requirements also change at some point. Maybe some glossaries were added that are not needed anymore, but no one knows they need to be removed. So all this, I think one issue with this is that the LLM doesn't necessarily have all the hierarchy that you, as a person who's used to work with this customer, for example, that you have internalized. You may see a glossary and you say, okay, well, this glossary, I can just ignore this because I know, this is not the right word. Yeah. But an LLM doesn't necessarily have that. And hierarchies may not be always straightforward. In some cases, the TM may prevail over the glossaries, and in some others, the other thing. So clean linguistic assets, I think, are the dream of every one of us.
Okay. Well, the good news is that here at Smartling, we bring the dream closer, right, by our colleagues,
Yeah.
another group of our colleagues working on linguistic assets, harmonization and optimization tools, style guide extraction, style guide simplification. So thanks so much, Mariana, for your insights, and really excited about the research that you lead here and the team is doing here.